Today we're talking about the Slate Digital Metatune plugin, which is Slate's answer to Antares AUTO-TUNE, to Waves Tune, and even to Celemony Melodyne. So if you guys want to learn more about this plugin, stick around after this introduction. Welcome everybody, I'm Dan Spencer, and I am the Audio Sorcerer. So this is the channel where I teach you how to perfect your audio recording, mixing, and mastering skills. So before we get to the video, make sure you guys smash that like button. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell to know when I have new videos coming out. So without further ado, today we're talking about the Slate Digital Metatune. So what is Metatune? Well, it is essentially a more pimped out version of AUTO-TUNE. And Slate's claim to fame for this here is saying that you could essentially get rid of your graphical tuners, basically saying you can ditch Melodyne and just use Metatune. And I'll give a response to that statement later in this video on whether I think that is true or not. So in this tutorial/review, I'm going to go over the user interface of this plugin. I'm going to show you all the parameters in it, and then we're going to tune a vocal, okay? So if you guys end up liking this plugin, I do have a link in the description below where you can purchase it. And before we get further into the video, I do have a link popping up in the top right corner to my Slate Digital playlist. So if you guys are a Slate Digital fan like myself, definitely check out that playlist after this video because I guarantee you'll probably find a video in there that you might like, all right? So with that being said, let's get into this tutorial and let's look at the user interface of the Slate Digital Metatune. Alright, so here we are in Pro Tools, and I have Metatune open here. So this is the user interface. So we're going to start on the right-hand side because this is the most commonly used parameters that you are going to be adjusting. So starting with speed, this is going to be how quickly your notes snap into tune. So the higher you go, the faster it is, and that's going to sound more like the auto-tune sound. The lower you go, the more natural it's going to be. Down here for amount, this is how much pitch correction is applied. I like to leave this on 100% because I want my notes to be fully in tune, so I always leave it on 100. Now sustained is something unique to Metatune, so this actually helps for singers that have a lot of vibrato. This is going to affect your long notes. So if you were to increase the sustain here, this is going to make your held out notes retune faster. If you decrease the sustain, it will make your held out notes retune slower. So if you have a singer with a lot of vibrato, you might want to actually pull the sustain down for a more natural sound, okay? So it's also worth mentioning that the speed and amount can be adjusted by moving the orb here. So if I move this middle here, this changes the speed. If I do the outside, this will change the amount, okay? Kind of cool. So moving down to this bottom section here, where there's a lot of good stuff here, we have this little select section. So this allows us to hear either notes or chords, and we can hear the chords in either major or minor, okay? So if I wanted to hear a note, I can simply hit note here and then press a note and we can hear it. So let's do that now. All right, cool. So I did a note, I did the major chord, and I did the minor chord of D, just so you can hear what they all sound like. And the purpose of having these in here is so that you can play back a song and you can actually press these while the song's playing to help you find the key. That is strictly what this is for, to help you find the key. All right. So moving over to our note stabilizer section, which this is probably one of the best features in Metatune. Basically what this does is it allows us to leave shorter notes alone from tuning. So if you look at this here, if we hover over short, this won't correct any notes shorter than 40 milliseconds. Mid is 80 milliseconds and long is 200 milliseconds, okay? So this basically helps some of your pickup notes, and it helps kind of get rid of some of that flutter effect that auto-tune gives to your vocal, that unnatural sound. So note stabilizer will help give you a more organic sound, all right? And there's not a best way to set this. You kind of got to play with it. All right, so moving to the keyboard here, this basically tells you what notes are in the key of the song. So anything lit up in purple will be available for Metatune to snap your note to. Anything lit up in gray will not be, okay? So moving over here where it says hover to set scale, this is where we are going to pick our key. So I know this song is in G major, so I'm going to select G, and then I'm going to select major. And you'll see over here, we have all the notes that are in the key lit up in purple. So that means we are pretty much good to go regarding the key. And again, if you don't know the key, you can use the select section here and use the note and chords to help you find it. All right. So those are the main portions of Metatune. I do want to mention some extra features in here that are kind of cool. So we do have a doubler in here, so you can actually double your voice. So all you have to do to double your voice is simply just turn up this fader here, and then you can adjust the width here, and you'll see how it makes these things in the orb section go wider, okay? And we'll play with that a little bit later. So let me put that back to Unity. And then we have a group section, which is kind of cool. So if you're working on multiple vocal tracks, which most of us are, we can assign these to groups. So if I have, we'll say 8 vocal tracks, and I want to put them all in group 1, if I make any adjustments to any parameters in one of these, it's going to adjust all the metatunes assigned to group 1, which is great. So that's a nice little feature there, okay? And if we want to reset that to no group, we can just hit this button here, and it sets this instance to no group. And then going back down to here again, we also have this thing called heat maps. These are going to show up when we actually are playing the audio, but what it does is it shows you the note coming in and the note going out. So it shows you what note basically you're singing and then what note it was fixed to, which is kind of cool. And then we also have presets, which is kind of rare for a auto-tune. So if you click on this here, you'll see that we have some presets for hip hop, pop, natural tuning, and some signature ones in here. I don't really use presets for auto-tuning, but if you want to use them, they are here. And yeah, that is pretty much everything I want to show you in the user interface. So with that being said, let's actually get into tuning a vocal track. All right, so the song we are working with here is a song I pulled from way back in the archives, and it's a song called Looking for a Change by Ninth and Ash. So why don't we take a listen to the chorus vocals without any metatune applied. All right, so let's give it a listen.
Well, you told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make.
All right, so when it comes to pitch, that was actually a really well-sang performance. There's just a couple notes in there that I think can be a little bit tighter, and this is going to take care of it for us. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start kind of just dialing stuff in here, but I'm going to kind of exaggerate this because I want you to see what this plugin can do when we turn it all the way up and get that auto-tune sound, and then of course when we turn it down a little bit and get more of the natural sound. So one thing I want to mention looking at the speed here before we start is that we can actually take this up into the negative range here. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a more sharper note change, okay? So it's going to really accent those note changes with that auto-tune sound, which makes the notes more defined. So that's actually kind of cool. Antares AUTO-TUNE does not have anything like this, so this is unique to Metatune. So with that being said, let's give it a listen and dial in Metatune.
Told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make. Told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make. Told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make. Told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make. Told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make. Told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make. Told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make. Told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make. Told me.
All right, cool. So I like where I dial it into. So as you heard when I had this way up or in the negatives, we had that real auto-tune sound, which we don't want for this type of music. I think having this down around in the 60s for milliseconds sounded good. I wanted the sustain up a little bit. I think it made it sound a little bit better to dial in the notes a little quicker because he doesn't have any vibrato. So I think this benefited it actually going into the positive percentage. And of course, as mentioned, I keep this on 100%. So the note stabilizer, I think the mid sounded the best. I didn't go to short because I thought when I hit mid, everything sounded good in my run through listen for that. Long actually missed a note towards the end. I don't know if you guys heard that in there, but one note was off when I had that on long. So that was definitely not a good setting for this particular performance. I also dialed in the doubler, which is not something I would use for this performance, but I figured since we're demoing this plugin, why not? We'll dial it in just a little bit. So it actually sounds pretty good. I'm kind of curious to see what this will sound like in the music now. So why don't we give this a listen now that it is pitched and has some doubling on it. All right, so let's give it a listen.
Well, you told me on the way out that you're looking for a change, and it always seems to go that way when you live for what you make.
Cool, so I think that actually sounds really good. Let's take a look at the other Metatune that I have on here. Let me shift this over. And this one here, I believe. So if I put these both in group 1, put this on group 1 here, you'll see that this actually synced to what was set over here because this was already in group 1. So that's a little warning. If you have something set in group 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then you start editing something else that is not in a group, when you add it to that specific group, it's going to override the settings you just did to whatever is set in that current group. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You could lose your settings if you don't think about that. All right, so just a little warning. So that concludes my demo on the Slate Digital Metatune. So let's move on to my final thoughts. All right, so I gotta say, I think the Slate Digital Metatune is a fantastic plugin. I think it is better than Antares AUTO-TUNE, and I think it is better than Wave's RealTune, which is currently the plugin that I use. And I think the things that really set it apart are the sustain feature and also the note stabilizer feature. I think those things really give it that extra thing to push it across the finish line of making the best auto-tune plugin out there. Now, can this actually replace Melodyne? The short answer is no, it really can't, because Melodyne does a lot more features than just tuning. Melodyne can fix your timing, you can go in there and fix your sibilance, and there's a lot of other things, including amplitude, you can fix with it too. Now, remember, this is auto-tune, so if you sing a note that is wrong, and it is closer to the note that you don't want it to go to, but that note is currently in the key, it's going to snap to that note. And the only way around that in an auto-tune plugin is to use it in a audio suite kind of way and actually kind of print that particular note separately or put it on a separate track. And you essentially have to kind of remove that note from the key that it's going to. So you kind of have to treat individual notes separately because that's the only way you can do it with an auto-tune. Because remember, auto-tune is going to snap to the nearest note in the key. There's nothing you can do about it, short of what I just told you. So no, it can't replace Melodyne. For us vocal editors like myself who spend a lot of time editing vocals, people pay me to do this. I cannot use that to do their vocals. I get some very intricate vocal tracks, we'll say, and no, that would not cut it. However, I do think for a well-sung vocal track, this will make it like essentially icing on the cake. It will take it across the finish line and make it very professional sounding. I really like it because it doesn't really give it any sort of artificial sound to it. It's very just organic, and that's what I really love about this particular plugin, okay? So, I hope you guys liked this video, and if you guys did, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe because I'm making this content for you, and hit that notification bell to know I have new videos coming out. And don't forget, if you guys like this plugin, I have a link in the description below where you guys can go purchase it. And don't forget to check out my vocal align tutorial, because if you're tuning your vocals, you definitely want to align them, okay? So until the next video, I will see you guys later, and peace out.